Imagine a land, once unified, now sliced in half by an invisible scar. A land where families are separated for generations, dreams are shattered by the chilling memories of war, and the icy grip of conflict lingers in the mountain air. This is the story of Korea, a nation tragically divided by ideology, forever marked by the brutal conflict known as the Korean War, 1950 to 1953. It's a story etched in the windswept plains that whisper tales of resilience, played out in the bustling streets of Seoul, a testament to a nation's remarkable transformation and echoed in the defiant pronouncements of Pyongyang, a reminder of a regime shaped by the crucible of war. This is not just a story of battles fought and grounds gained or lost. It's a saga woven from the threads of human lives, the bravery of soldiers on both sides, the anguish of families torn apart, the unwavering spirit of a people determined to rebuild. It's a story with a profound impact that stretches far beyond the Korean peninsula, a chilling reminder of the devastating consequences of ideological clashes played out on the world stage during the Cold War. Join us as we delve into this narrative of the Korean War. We'll explore the roots of the conflict, the key battles that shaped its course, and the devastating human cost. We'll examine the remarkable transformation of South Korea and the reasons behind North Korea's isolationist stance and pursuit of nuclear weapons. Finally, we'll look towards the future, exploring the prospects for reconciliation and reunification. A future where the echoes of war are replaced by the winds of peace and unity. But before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. And now let's get started. Following Japan's surrender in 1945, Korea, a former Japanese colony for over 3 decades, was divided at the 38th parallel. The North, occupied by the Soviet Union, became the Communist Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, led by Kim Il-sung. The South, under American control, became the Capitalist Republic of Korea, ROK, led by Syngman Rhee. Tensions simmered between the two Koreas, both of which claimed legitimacy over the entire peninsula. Border skirmishes and propaganda wars became commonplace. On June 25, 1950, the simmering tensions boiled over. North Korea, with Soviet backing, launched a full-scale invasion of South Korea. The North Korean People's Army, KPA, was well equipped with Soviet tanks and aircraft, quickly overwhelming the South Korean forces. Seoul, the South Korean capital, fell within days. The United States, viewing the invasion as a communist attempt at domino-like expansion in Asia, intervened under the banner of the United Nations, UN. The UN Security Council condemned the invasion and authorized a military response. A UN force, led by the United States, was assembled to push back the KPA and defend South Korea. General Douglas MacArthur took command of these forces. Initially, the UN forces, including contingents from Britain, Canada, and other countries, were pushed back to a small pocket around the port city of Pusan. However, under MacArthur's leadership, the UN forces launched a daring counteroffensive in September 1950, now known as the Incheon Landing. This amphibious assault surprised the KPA and allowed the UN to recapture Seoul and push further north. Emboldened by their success, the UN forces continued their advance towards the Yalu River, the border between North Korea and China. This move, however, proved to be a strategic miscalculation. China, wary of a unified, US-allied Korea on its border, intervened in the war in October 1950. The Chinese People's Volunteer Army, PVA, launched a series of offensives that forced the UN forces back south of the 38th parallel. Seoul fell again. The Korean War became a significant flashpoint in the Cold War. The United States and China, the two emerging superpowers, engaged in a proxy war without directly confronting each other. This indirect conflict would shape the geopolitical landscape of the latter half of the 20th century. One of the most brutal battles of the war was fought at the Chosin Reservoir in the harsh winter of 1950. UN forces, particularly American troops, were encircled by the Chinese army and endured sub-zero temperatures while fighting a desperate retreat. Though they suffered heavy casualties, the successful retreat from Chosin Reservoir prevented the complete annihilation of UN forces in North Korea. This battle, however, ultimately led to General MacArthur's dismissal by President Truman. MacArthur advocated for a wider war against China, including the use of atomic bombs, which Truman deemed an unacceptable escalation. The war became a bloody stalemate with both sides entrenched in trench warfare reminiscent of World War I. The fighting was brutal, characterized by heavy artillery bombardments and fierce hand-to-hand combat. Civilian casualties were staggering, with estimates ranging from 2 to 3 million people killed. The infrastructure of both Koreas was devastated. North Korea, heavily reliant on Soviet aid, suffered immensely. South Korea's economy was shattered, and the country struggled to rebuild in the aftermath of the war. The human cost of the Korean War extended beyond the battlefield. Families were torn apart by the division of the peninsula, and millions became refugees. The war also left a deep psychological scar on the Korean people, a legacy that continues to shape inter-Korean relations today. North Korea's isolationist stance and development of nuclear weapons can be partly attributed to the deep mistrust sown by the war. South Korea, meanwhile, has undergone a remarkable economic transformation but still grapples with the legacy of the Korean War. The Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, a heavily fortified border zone that separates the two Koreas, remains a stark reminder of the unresolved conflict. The Korean War never formally ended with a peace treaty. Instead, an armistice was signed in 1953, bringing an end to the active fighting but leaving the peninsula in a state of perpetual tension. The DMZ, a 2.5-mile-wide strip of land heavily fortified by both sides, serves as a constant reminder of the divided nation. South Korea, with significant U.S. aid and fueled by a determined population, embarked on a remarkable economic journey in the latter half of the 20th century. The country's rapid industrialization and technological advancements, often referred to as the miracle on the Han River, transformed it into a major economic power. However, the legacy of the war continues to cast a shadow. South Korea's economic success was not without its social and political costs. The rapid economic growth led to income inequality and social unrest. The authoritarian governments that ruled South Korea for much of the post-war period were criticized for suppressing dissent and prioritizing economic development over political reform. Democratization movements gained momentum in the late 20th century, leading to a more open political system in South Korea today. North Korea, on the other hand, remained a closed communist state under the Kim dynasty. The country heavily relied on Soviet and later Chinese aid, but its economy stagnated. Feeling threatened by the US and South Korea, North Korea embarked on a controversial nuclear weapons program, raising international security concerns. The Korean peninsula remains divided, and the Korean War continues to shape the lives of millions of Koreans on both sides of the border. Despite periods of heightened tension, there have been efforts towards reconciliation and possible reunification. Inter-Korean talks, though sporadic and often unsuccessful, offer a glimmer of hope for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The story of the Korean War is a complex one, with deep historical roots and far-reaching consequences. Understanding this war is crucial to comprehending the geopolitical landscape of Northeast Asia and the ongoing challenges of Korean reunification.